Morning. Check. Confirm. Yeah. It's like, are you watching it?
How do you pronounce it?
Okay, I think
That's it. We won't get what we could do or fella. We leave the story.
What are you seeing on it? You see the screen?
They say everything.
Okay. Okay. I think we can. We can get started.
No, what's the Nigeria?
I'm not going to ask what I can switch like that. I don't like to stay here each time. I'm to read myself.
Okay. Okay, please can we? You're live.
It's morning. It's still morning.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. My name is Engineer Johnson Shadibayo. I'm the immediate past chairman of electrical engineers in Abuja. Just handed over barely 48 hours ago. And I'm invited here by Innocent. So I'm going to anchor this program for the first session. So kindly bear with me. This is my first social. And fortunately, I was the first to get here. But I want to commend the efforts of Innocent as usual. Though it delivers well, but the timing have to be corrected. So I apologize entirely for starting on this note. And on a lighter note, I had to go around and get everybody's names. So if you're sure your name is not on this list, kindly you'll be the only one to probably read out your name. And like I said, pardon me, I might not pronounce your name as you want it. So I'll call your first names. If okay, as a Nigerian, I should try. Okay. I'm supposed to actually introduce Innocent, but probably is making some prayers to have confidence. And I'm gonna have to remove this jacket. Okay. That will be when he makes his speech, so I can be a comrade in the house. My name is Short from Funshaw, like I said, and I'll be introducing our first mayor, also the second person that came into this auditorium this morning, Magnus Unwokwe ESQ. So I introduce you, you wave. Second by Moses Ezenwa Abulonu. Third is Nsuki Okon. Nsuki Okon. Okay, I know why. Uche Emeka Obi. Okay. Ibrahim Gaba Wala. Okay. Baba Ye. Okay. Wali Ajani. Okay. Precious. Okay. Zachary. Okay. Grace Anosike. Okay. Christy. Okay. Sam Edward. Oh, behind the camera. Benjamin Obe Kings. Okay. Good News Odera. Okay. Chibuzo Daniel. Okay, behind the camera as well. Kenneth Ijoma. Okay, behind the cameras as well. Oruro Samuel. Okay, on my left hand side. I've introduced every one of us here. We'll be taking the introduction to know the reason why we're here. And I believe Innocent is ready. You call him Marcel, I call him Innocent. So on this lighter mode, I'd like to invite to the podium Marcelino Innocent Ngobegi. You're welcome. You're welcome. Another round of applause, please, for him.
My name is Marcel, Innocent Ngobegi. But my friend called me Innocent. We find that very convenient, but my real name is Marcel. My father is Innocent. It's okay. So I want to thank everyone for coming. We started a bit late, but it's better late than so we will be going through the sessions. The first session will be taking is political promise, accountability, and procedure for redress. We have a lawyer in-house that will handle that. And then the second session will be deliberative debate by some key social media titans. This is the first time I'm meeting some of them. I know one of them actually blocked me, and I'm going to fight him yesterday. But it's fine. So, to move on, let's just have a brief presentation to say why we're here. Okay. So we're looking at Citizens Parliament. Now, the parent body is an NGO called Give Back to Humanity Initiative. So what Give Back to Humanity Initiative basically does is that we have the opinion that God has placed us above a particular level, and that there are quite a lot of people below us, and that we should not forget them. We should try and look for ways of seeing how we can give back, no matter how small. So we're involved in quite a lot of humanitarian activities and all that. Again, we now thought that, okay, if we're going to be telling the citizens to bring the little they have to the society, what happens to the people that controls our collective resources? What happens to the people that are directly in charge of the billions of naira we generate in terms of oil wells, in terms of tax and all that? So we thought that there should be a way to also get the citizens to engage the people in government directly, such that their own interests will be protected. And that's where we came about with Citizens Parliament. Okay. For a start, I will ask us to look at this image. Does it make any sense? Whatever it is, let's keep our thoughts as we go down. But just this is it. It's important we know that the views expressed here are my personal view. and I do not represent any government agency or any company. It's purely that of mine and that of the NGO. That's my disclaimer. So if you want anybody to arrest, come for me directly. This is the homepage of Give Back to Humanity. So what we basically do is that we believe that every human being has the right to dignity, no matter what. And again, when I look at this picture, it reminds me of me. I'm a product of that kind of environment. And it beholds me that this kind of environment even lives within us. I mean, just take a stroll like a few meters away from this particular venue. This stares you up in the face. And these are human beings like us. They were born the way we were born, and they're probably going to die the way we're going to go. And it's very important as we live, we try our best to see what we can do for them to elevate their standard of living. We have options for volunteer, for ambassadors, and for patrons, depending on the roles you want to play. And we also do once in a while call for donations if we have any particular target project we want to embark on. We go online and ask for people to come forward and donate to us. Okay. So the question is, why Citizens Parliament? And the aim is very simple: to encourage citizens' participation in governance at all levels. As far as this country is concerned, we have a government at different levels, even down to our village heads. They are providing some level of governance. And the thing is that the leader exists for the led. And it's important that we being the led in this instance, work with them and see how we can help them to protect our own interests. Okay. So what are our objectives? We will embark massively on citizens' education. We will try to make citizens understand their rights and their obligations. We would also talk to governments and let them understand that being elected to a particular position is not it's not an open check. You also have obligations to the citizens that elected you. We would want citizens to engage in public financial management, in the sense that if billions are generated from our collective wealth, it is very, very important we also get involved in how those billions are expended and spent. So we would want to encourage citizens to engage in this particular area. We will involve in grassroots mobilization and engagement. If there are topical issues that affect the masses, we will go down to them, to the villages, we will sit down with them, we will talk to them, we will get their own opinion, and we will project it. We also have a program we call Student Mentorship Program. What that basically does is that we go to schools and then talk to the young ones. Part of the problem we notice is that the young ones, most of them are like cheap without shepherd. During our days in school, we have professors and other visiting lecturers who come to the school, but I don't think that happens these days. It's forgotten. So we're also going to be looking at that. And then one of the things we'll be coming up with is what we call whiteboarding. We understand that there's a lot of back and forth information in the quality. This said and that said, it was this, it wasn't that. So we also want to come up with ways of ensuring that we bring some clarity and objectivity into issues. When issues of national interest comes up, we would be able to get people together and be able to nail it and avoid the bulk passing and the massive propaganda and deceit that's probably going on in the polity. So that's what the whiteboarding segment of our initiative is going to be handling. Why do we need citizens to participate in governance? One of them is we need to increase accountability of public officers. We do not have to wait for us to see the press headlines of $150 billion stolen or what. Before that money is stolen, we should get involved. Before that contract is awarded, we should get involved. Before National Assembly passes the budget, we should get involved. In my village, I don't think anybody would here tell me what my grandfather needs in my village. His problem might just be as simple as dig me a well near my house. And then it is important we get his perspective and push it up. So that when they are doing their budget, they should also know that that grandfather in the northeast or in the southeast or anywhere, all he needs is just a well to drink water, which is more important to him than all the internet facilities you might set up in that whole village. Okay. Now, we would also want a better understanding of citizens' needs. And then we need to empower the citizens. Now, when we initially came up with this program, we got a lot of calls that, are you not starting up something that you locked off? The government department might feel very uncomfortable and then kick you off. And my response to them is that I am part of those that put this government in power or any other government. They are there to represent my interest. I need to be in power, so I should not be scared of that. Okay? And then we also need to come about a better conflict resolution. Most of the troubles we are having in the country these days would actually be resolved if there are an avenue where citizens can sit down together and hear their grievances. The greatest mistake you do is to close the door of having people to be able to, bring up their grievances. Once you close it, people will most likely resort to violence, in order to pass on their demands. So by participating in our programs and being able to start up the whole citizen parliament, we also be able to take grievances and take it to the people in authority. And then so many more. There is a book called the Handbook on Information, Consultation, and Public Participation in Policy Making, and that's where we're studying for information. And it looks at citizens as partners. And there are different levels. At the first level, all you do is information and transaction. The government just, gives you information. You don't get involved. It's a one-way process. And if you ask me honestly, that is the level we are, where we just sit down and read news, get breaking news, and then they inform us of what they do. We don't get involved. At the second level is the consultation level, where there's a government citizen back and forth. At that level, citizen responses are generally determined by government via multiple choice questions. Government will pass information and say, okay, what do you guys feel about that? When we respond, they will use it to do whatever they want to do. At the third level is deliberative involvement, where government engages citizens in consultation process. At the fourth level, we have government-led active participation. And this is the level where most civilized government do. They set up the institutions that will ensure citizens are directly involved in affairs of the state. At the topmost level, you have the citizen-led active participation, and that is the level we intend to get. At the level where citizens are actively engaged in decision-making processes with government, citizens become binding. Citizens they have share in the ownership structure, and they also have responsibility over the outcomes of whatever government comes up with. What are models for participation? Massive education and information. We collaborate with people, and then in this process, we also empower the citizens to be part of the whole process. Our town hall meeting, we came up with the town hall meeting engagement process, where we would identify a problem. We would talk to people to prefer solutions. These solutions will be analyzed and deliberated. We'll reach some kind of consensus. It's very, very important, because again, what works for this might not work for the other. Okay, so we have some kind of consensus, and then we will look at possible implementation, and then we evaluate what the outcome is. So this is the model we are adopting for our town hall engagement. So subsequently, we might be inviting some of you to be part of our town hall meetings on some topical issues, and we'll see how that goes. Okay. And we believe that if we do that, no matter what the obstacles are, we would either be able to fly over it, go under it, or just break the walls. Whatever it is that is holding us down as a country, that is stopping us from being in the league of the civilized countries, we should be able to break it down. Okay. So back to the pictures we have earlier. We have the present government will be the 16th president or head of state that this country has ever had. And the question is, why are we still where we are? Would all these people be wrong? I mean, those are the questions that keep running through my mind. They have taken a shot at the leadership of this country, and we still have problems. So what exactly is this? Is this something we are not doing right? Is it that we are not getting the right leadership? Can 16 people be wrong? Can 16 people go into an office and be doing consistently the wrong things? And that is the question we really need to ask ourselves. So rather than pointing fingers to the government, to the people in authority, we should also do some inner retrospective. What have we done as a citizen to help them succeed? Do we just put our hands and stay and then wait for them to fall and then come back? And then on the other way around, we should also look at them and say, what have you created the environment and the opportunities to enable citizens to participate? Now, we need not wait. We can also do things in our own little way. So part of what we are saying is that in all of this, who suffers? Is it the people in authority? The citizens. Poverty, unemployment, insecurity, for infrastructure, for education. I mean, name them. It is the people at the bottom of the pyramid that suffers. The leaders can always have money, they can always go abroad for treatment, they can always send their kids abroad. But those people which we show their picture from the beginning of this presentation are the people that get hit most. And we should find a way to let them come up and speak up and let them be part of decision making in government. What is our goal as Citizens Parliament? We want to set up a Citizens Parliament platform at the national level where we would directly engage the government at the federal level. We also want to have some kind of a regional level participation where each of the 6 geopolitical zones would have citizen parliaments that are working with those zones and work with the states of those zones. We want to have them at the state level, we want to have them at the local government level, and at the very, very low level, the community and the villages. And this means that everybody needs to be involved, and this means that the cooperation of people in this room is sought, and the people that are watching us in our live YouTube channels, wherever you are, we're calling you that at this level, we need to get involved in what happens to us in this country. We need your support. I once saw this quote by George Collins. He says, if you have a selfish and ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish and ignorant leaders. At first, I thought this is like insulting. But in a very closer look, it's just law of karma. What you give is what you sow is what you reap. So if you have citizens that are selfish, that are only want to do things that favors them, that doesn't want to look at how it affects other citizens, and you end up having leadership because that is what will be the rationale for you voting for somebody to be in power. If somebody coming from my state of my local government is my consideration for getting me into power, that means I'll rally people around me to go that person, irrespective of whether the person is competent or whether it's going to do what the collective good is. So that is what this says, that if you're selfish and ignorant, you will most likely have leaders in that same category. Okay. Now, we need your support so that we can make this more robust. We need your support so that we can make it more collaborative and constructive. We need your support to mobilize and engage and excite more citizens in all the different segments of this country. We need your support to build the Nigeria of our dreams. My generation will not pass away without we having a Nigeria of our dreams. And the truth is that if we did not do anything in our generation, the future generations are going to be more aggressive. They will get it done. And our generation will be seen like a wasted one. It's very, very important that we understand this. Okay? Now, if that is done and we're able to engage this, we might be proving this right or wrong. Which way? We planted a seed, I believe. Do we allow this seed to grow and become what we want it to be? Or do we allow it to die? The option is ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, myself. That was a very fast one and very deep one. It actually food for thought, and it should be our take-home issues. As much as we can, we'll resolve what we have here and exhaust it before our time. Without wasting much time, I'd like to call on the next speaker. Magnus, are you ready, sir? Magnus will be speaking with us on political promises, accountability, and procedure for redress. Magnus has a master's in law and is in charge of citizens attorneys. Coincidentally, that has almost the same name as the Citizens Parliament. Actually, I googled this morning and I discovered that the unification issue between the government, the people, and the stakeholders in the industry is the voice. So, what we're gathered here this afternoon now is to have a voice, not against, but on a neutral note. Because I asked myself for that. And this is not an anti-government gathering. Let's not be scared. Let's be able to express ourselves. We have all our social network sites up. If you want to send text message, please go ahead and do that. Don't be scared of giving out details. Speak your mind, share the voice, and let's project it. Thank you. Magnus, you're welcome. You can have the stage now.
I want to say good afternoon. In Africa, we recognize men first before women. So good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies.
Good afternoon.
I'm being invited by Citizens Parliament to speak on, or to discuss with you on political promises. I want to add to that as a corrigendum, accountability, and procedure for redress. But suffice to say that what is even political promises in the first place? Before elections are being conducted, there are preludes to such elections called political campaigns. It is at such venues and such occasions that politicians and those who are seeking political offices make various promises. So suffice to say that these are those things we call political promises. Those things being said with the view of canvassing votes are called political promises. The English dictionary defines promise. The word promise is important we understand it as a word. As to give an understanding to or an assurance to do or not to do something. This is found at page 1109 of 21st century Stemper Dictionary. It says, to give an undertaking or an assurance to do or refrain from doing something. To give an assurance. That is promise. But importantly, the Black's Law Dictionary at page 12 to 28 defined promise as follows: the manifestation of an intention to act. Manifestation of an intention to act. This is how the dictionary, both law and contemporary English dictionary, capture the meaning promise. But I want to say that as a student of contract law, promise means an expression leading another person justifiably to expect certain conduct on the part of the promisor. The person making the promise is called the promisor. The person who received the promise is called the promisee. It is an expression leading a person justifiably to expect certain conduct on the part of the promisor. Now, if these are the meanings of promise, we can now move onto political promises. Are they enforceable? Are they enforceable? Very important. Now, it is indeed an essential element of a contract for there to be a promise. In the absence of a promise, there is no contract. It is a promise that brings about the consideration thereto. So once there is a promise and there is an action pursuant to that promise, there is a valid contract said to have ensued. Once there is a promise and there's a corresponding action pursuant to the promise, a valid and enforceable contract is said to have taken place. Now, in political terrain, we do have such promises. And when the populace, and the electorate cast their vote, they are thereby giving out their authority, their sovereign, their power onto the persons whom the votes are being casted for or to. When such is done, in jurisprudence we call it socio-contract theory. It is a social contract is said to have been established. And when there's a contract, there is enforcement. I've casted my votes based on your promises. And my votes has given you the power to exercise on my behalf. So there's a contract. When you fail to fulfill your undertakings, the dictionary defined it as undertaking or assurances. So when you fail to fulfill your undertakings or your assurances, you've breached the contract. On a commercial balance, when a contract is breached, what happens? Of course, the aggrieved party goes to court or sues to seek for redress. But in politics, how do we ensure the enforcement of these promises given to us by politicians and political office holders? How do we ensure it? I think that is the germane or the crux of this lecture this afternoon. How do we ensure? I don't know how many minutes I have.
18.
Very well.
The signal.
Very well. So how do we ensure enforcement of political promise? Unfortunately, I have to move fast because I can see my time is very short. Unfortunately, satirically speaking, there is no remedy, as it were. There's no remedy. I've scanned through the Constitution from the cover page to the back page. There's no provision for enforceability of political promises. Even in those ones as contained in the Constitution are not even enforceable. For instance, the promises as contained under Chapter 2, what we call directive principles and state policy. It has been said time without number that they are not justiciable. You cannot go to court and seek for their enforcement. If the time is short, but let me say it quickly. Now, at Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution, it provides what is called fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. And it reads out various number of things that the state is expected to have owed its citizens. For instance, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on principles of democracy and social justice. It is hereby accordingly declared as follows: 1. That sovereignty belongs to you and I. Absolute power belongs to the people of Nigeria, through whom government derives all its powers and authority. So section 14, paragraph 2 says that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, through whom government derives all its powers and authority. It goes on to say that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Whence government fails to provide him with security, can I hold him it's responsible for no provision of security? The courts have said that these provisions, these contents as well, cannot be litigated, cannot be sued, they are not justiciable. But the Constitution, which is a grown norm, says these are duties of state to its citizens. Section 1, subsection 1 says, this Constitution shall be supreme and shall have overriding effect on all persons and authorities throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if it says it shall be supreme and shall have overriding effect on all persons and authorities throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria, then those in government, those that hold provisions, must be seen to fulfill and execute and enforce the provisions of the Constitution as they have sworn to protect. They have sworn to protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic. But the courts have said these same contents or promises, as it were, cannot be demanded. And that's why I say that it is unfortunate that when they make these promises, they cannot be enforceable. But suffice to still say that the word promise, to my mind, can be seen from two perspectives. There could be what is because in law there are different types of promises. There's what's called bare promise. There's what we call futuristic promise in future, which means futuristic promise. There's what we call contingent promise. There's what we call strict promise. And there is, for instance, we call negotiable instrument. They are called promissory notes. All are promises. So a promise that is said, that is so categorical, can be seen with an intention that the promisor intends to do that he or she has professed to do. But any promise that is implied may be said not to be enforceable. So every promise that is expressed, to my mind, should be enforceable. In other words, I'm not saying that there are two broad categories of promises: express promise and implied promise. So for every express promise has an intention by the promisor, to comply and fulfill those undertakings as made by the promisor. So if, for instance, I come to tell you, gentlemen, here that should you vote for me, I shall ensure 25-hour power supply. That is express promise. And when you vote for me, it is my duty to fulfill that undertaking. It is my duty. You have never forced me. So if I fail to do that, I have deceived you. It's a deception. And if I call it a deception, what is corruption after all? The word corruption. The English dictionary defines corruption as depravity, perversion or taint, something that is dirty, taint, an impairment of integrity, virtue, or moral principles, especially of a public office holder, is contained at page 348 of Black's Law Dictionary. Not my words. The Black's Law Dictionary defines corruption as depravity, perversion, or taint, an impairment of integrity, virtue, or moral principles, especially of a public office holder. So if I have told you, I have promised you, whilst campaigning, that I shall supply you, I shall ensure 25 hours power supply. And based on my promises, you cast your vote, you gave me the mandate, and I failed to do this undertaking. I have deceived you. That promise of mine becomes corrupt because it's tainted. I have deprived you of what I promised you, so I am corrupt. We need to understand this concept of corruption. What is corruption? Today, folks will say that I never said so, it was my party that said so. For instance, the Electoral Act does not provide for independent candidature. Every contestant must be sponsored by a party. In other words, the party's provisions and constitution is the charter of the constitution of that party. Therefore, each candidate must be seen to execute the contents of the charter. And every charter is valid and enforceable. But as I said before, regrettably, our constitution does not have provisions for recall. However, Section 116 of the Electoral Act 2011, as amended, provides for recall. So the way to seek redress of political promises, as it were, we are left with only this narrow option of recall. Very narrow. Incidentally, and worse still, it is very, very cumbersome. What does the Electoral Act provide on the procedures and process of recall? First, if you are disgruntled that I have not fulfilled my promises, you know how somebody has now put up a petition to the Electoral Commission as being the upper, then the Electoral Commission will now come to that constituency and organize a plebiscite. But of course, that petition has been supported by half of signatories of those of all eligible registered voters within that constituent. Having received such a complaint or petition by the commission, as it were, the commission will now come to that constituency to conduct a referendum. And when there is a two-thirds of majority in that community, in that constituency, that say yes, we are satisfied, we are dissatisfied with, or we are in support with the petition, therefore that person remains, that elected officer remains recalled. But of course, you now understand that this procedure is very cumbersome. Very, very cumbersome. It's almost impossible. Given our kind of multi-ethno setting in Nigeria, particularly, for instance, you want to call the president, who is from, for instance, from the east, southeast. You expect someone from the northwest to concede? It's impossible. So, what about redress, procedure for redress? Well, the worst Nigerians, by our laws, can do is to await for another electoral session. That's the best. You never say, okay, I gave you the mandate last time, you failed. Now I have ceased my mandate. I will give it to someone else. For example, what happened last time. But before I run up, my time is running up. I want to read this excerpt from a paper delivered by Chief Bisi Akande, the SY Maiden National Chairman of APC, or Progressive Congress. It was a paper he delivered on the 20th of April 2001 at the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, titled Poverty Reduction in a Dynamic Democracy. He said, and I quote, either in a democracy or in a dictatorship, national power is measured in terms of economic self-sufficiency. Knowledge promotes economic and military power through scientific and technological impetus. In a dictatorship, knowledge cannot grow because free thinking, free speech, free discussion are stifled to the extent that man has no opportunity to exercise those fundamental rights. In a democracy, however, access to such rights as freedom of movement, free education, free healthcare, decent housing, and good food are demanded, debated, and discussed as we are discussing today. Even if they will not be addressed by the people in authority, they will form the basis of eventual promises by those aspiring the power through election. They will form the basis by those aspiring political power through elections. Perhaps that could have been formed, being the then chairman of APC, while APC promised Nigerians all these goodies. And perhaps why Nigerians gave their votes to APC. Today, we expect those promises to be available. APC promised Nigeria, for instance, that its presidential candidate shall have a public declaration of his assets. Public, with emphasis. We are promised that within 30 days, Boko Haram will be rooted out of Nigeria. We are now 100 days plus. We were also promised, there were litanies of promises. Litany of promises. In fact, last Monday, at the occasion of ICANN, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the Vice President reiterated the promise of free meals to primary school pupils. We are yet to see them. The next day, last Tuesday, the next day, National Association of Nigerian Students paid a visit to the President. The President reiterated the same. We are yet to see these things. How do we now enforce these promises? Unfortunately, I'm not anybody brief. The APC is now distancing itself from these promises. They are. And when we say corruption, as I said before, that deceit is likened to corruption. I want to stop here. It's a food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insightful message. And we want to really dwell much on the process of this discussion for now. We proceed to the next speaker, but before I call on the next speaker, I would like to introduce two more guests in our list. Chukwudi Ozala, just give a wave right there behind the cameras, and Zainab Yusuf, you're welcome. We are just coming, sir, we're putting attendance. And I'll call on, is it Cambridge now? Because you're putting on the National Labour Congress. Just simply, Baba, hi, you're welcome. You're going to still give us some little insight on the same topic for this first session, political promise and accountability. You're welcome, sir. And Redress. Let's give him a round of
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, colleagues and colleagues. Yeah, it's afternoon already. I think this topic is a very important one, especially as there are already issues of, oh, we made promises, we didn't make promises. But even beyond that, and a question that was asked by the first speaker of why are we where we are now after 15 or 16 leaders? Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and Zik, we are actually two sides of the same coin. But essentially, is why are we where we are? It's that you've always had promises, And it's actually not something that is limited to Nigeria, but you could talk about the rapaciousness of the ruling elite in Nigeria. And I think that there are two aspects of it, and we need to appreciate this. There's a structural aspect, and then there's the aspect regarding the subjective factor of the character of leadership. And when we're talking about leadership, we look at it, when we're talking of demanding redress, I would also look at what essentially does this amount to? How could it be done? How have this been done in other places? And what are perspectives that could guide, the possibilities, the problems, and prospects that go with this? I am national convener of United Action for Democracy, and the UAD has we played a key role in the struggle to kick out the military. And I'm very proud to say that. A turning point in that struggle was the 5 million man rally we organized at Yaba. And before then, yes, it was that we wanted to have a liberal democracy in Nigeria. We kind of got that in 1999. And what the UAD is saying now is we need a democracy of the working people. And for me, when you also talk of the citizens, it is quite important, but we need to deconstruct it. It is not every citizen that is on the margins. Even those people we are asking to do what is right, they are citizens. And there are citizens that are not necessarily in government, but based on their class location, based on their affinity to the persons in the corridor of power, they are part and parcel of getting us to where we are. In terms of the question of over the years. So when we're talking about getting things right, when we're talking about turning things around, we're talking about the self-emancipation of the working people. We're talking about those who have not, and when you look at it, those that are, the first speaker also pointed out, those at the bottom of the rung of the ladder economically are also those that essentially are politically, so to speak, disempowered. But we are not powerless, and I'll come to that. And it's not just about the power to go once every 4 years to vote. Which of this set of liars and thieves and oppressors is going to oppress us for the next 4 years? Democracy is much more than just franchise right, even when the votes are counted and the votes are made to count. For example, talking about the issue of budgets, then maybe someone in the village prefers it. We are at a stage in which in places you are having the people's budget. In Porto Alegre, in Brazil, in Kerala, in India, in San Francisco, in the United States. Yes, these are smaller examples, but they show that it can be done. You can have bottom-up budgeting processes. What takes place in these places? You have in the different wards and the different villages, people come together, point out what their priorities are. This fits up, and then based on what is. So it is not just about some people sitting in Abuja or in some state capital and determining for you and I what should be the priority of our lives. We should be talking about participatory democracy, not every 4-year democracy. And for me, in a sense, that is why, like, some of what unfolded from the discussions of this meeting is important. And then when we're talking about this, we should talk of what organs, what movements, what are those bodies that can bring about such a change. I think the working class is central to this, and I'll point out why. And I'm coming also to the question of power and the question of redress and accountability. Because the simple fact of the matter is this. I think it was Frederick Douglass, and then Malcolm X also recaptured it in some other way, which I'm paraphrasing, I think, when he said that power respects other power. And the fact of the matter is that those in government could choose to do or not do whatever they are doing or not doing, if they so choose, except there is popular power to counteract. And yes, the last speaker is the lawyer. Actually, I'm not one of those that said the law is an ass-read, but I've always felt that the issues of the day, even the law itself, is political. And then the issue of the politics. For me, the issue of the politics of the mass, the politics. How did we bring even, when some people say nothing changed in 99, I laughed. Something changed. But we even want something deeper. And how did that change come about? It is because people got together to mobilize. People got together to fight and say no. 2012, we're all living witnesses. If we had sat back after the jacking up of the price of fuel, I mean, nothing would have happened. But because we dare to fight to turn it around. We might not win all our battles, but we will win no battle if we don't dare to fight. So, I'm stressing this because you see, when we're trying to bring about change, and that's one of the things that also emerged in the 80s mainly, and you have contradictory currents in terms of moving forward. At times you have what several people also have described as NGOism. NGO is not bad in itself, but NGOism, I describe it as proposal-driven activism. And that won't get us anywhere. Good, it says I don't have up to 30 minutes. Anyway, that won't get us anywhere, really. It's about organizing. It's about, and that is a contradictory current with the issue of mobilizing popular resistance. And the issue of procedure, and that was what I started by saying, I think that talking about the issue of recall, each time, let me try point out some key things. I feel that essentially this system cannot really guarantee us what it promises. And it's not just about Nigeria. I'm happy that the first presentation, there was something that was withdrawn from the OECD about citizen-led participation. But we have seen what have happened in recent times in OECD countries like Greece, even Italy at a point in time. They don't mind eschewing the democracy that was fought for and won hundreds of years back by the entrepreneurs there to have technocratic governments. We have seen international institutions in Europe make it clear that the vote of no by the people in Greece does not matter. So I think we should be quite clear that yes, you see, life is about contradictions. Life is generally facing front and facing back, so to speak. So we are quite clear. This system, we need fundamental change of the system. We need a fundamental change of the system. In the course of that, we need to win and defend reforms without falling into the illusory joy of that winning such reform either opens the door of a paradise. No! Every reform will win, the ruling class will try to turn it back. But more importantly, what brought me to that was the issue of recall. Recall is a very, very important element if we are really to build a society where those that we elect are our representatives. There is the need to demand that it is made much. I remember sometime in Play 2 there was an attempt, but it's just petered out because as the last speaker said, it was a very cumbersome process. It's those kind of things that they give the idol the goat, but they will still hold the rope. So it should be made much simpler because if people represent you, it's just like when you put money in the bank, sometimes it's no problem. When you want to get it from some banks, at least, voila, they. So the right to recall is a very central element for a working people's democracy. Then also the pay. When we're talking about campaign promises, accountability. The wages of those that say they are our servants. We must pay the wages of our servants. Otherwise, you have men that become more powerful than the supposed owners of the house. The kind of money that when he was even in that to the court of the Senate, and they said, I don't know, what are they, and what service are they doing? I don't see any reason why if people genuinely come out to serve at the executive or in the legislature, they should get more than the average wage of a worker. Because you said you want to serve. What is minister? Minister is servant. So we should insist on that. We should insist on the right of recall being a real right and not just something that is put there. We should also insist on regular feedback. Well, I know you used to have monthly people, especially with the president we have now. It's not enough to think that, oh, the president is one benevolent, how do they call him, a new sheriff in town. I mean, that's, if you ask me, hogwash, under dash. No human being should be vested with the power to know everything for everybody. There should be regular feedback, but most importantly, as I pointed out, is we cannot fundamentally change things if we don't organize. If we don't go beyond the workshop to organize peaceful demonstrations, yes. If we don't go beyond being online, which is good, to having leaflets, to having, we have to blend all forms of communication, all forms of organizing, in projecting and in struggling to bring about real change, where the working people are the power that society, not only where it is not as if people, we can't emancipate the masses. The act of emancipation of the masses has to be an act of self-emancipation, and this struggle will entail a multifaceted use of technology, of communication, but most importantly, of mobilization for change. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. You know why I said Comrade Babai. Comrade is always the comrade.
That's right.
We've had two speakers now. I'll call on the third speaker and the last speaker for this first session. And but I still want to reiterate a little that this is not a political gathering, and this is a first sitting parliament in Nigeria, and we're working to make things better for the sitting government. So once again, my name is John Shadibayo. You're welcome. But the new guest we have, we will not put down your name, you still pass it around. We have in our midst the chief, sir, Uche Ezejuku. Okay, you're welcome, sir. Thank you. So I'll call on Moses Agulonu to give us the last remark or presentation on political promises, accountability, and procedure for redress. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Let me stand on the existing protocol. I want to appreciate the organizers and the first and second speakers. They've done justice to the topic so far. Mine is to add to an addendum. What we find ourselves today happening in Nigeria is what we collectively join hands to bring upon ourselves. If we should trace the path of history, the journey to democracy started as early as 1978, when the government of General Olusegun Obasanjo set up a body known as Constitution Drafting Committee that gave us the 1979 Constitution. It demanded the way to move Nigeria forward has been our challenge. The first speaker did justice to accountability, political promises, and equally the second speaker did same. What I'm going to do is to add flesh to the bone, so I will not waste too much time. But I want to assure us that Nigeria is our collective commonwealth. Among the pastors and other motivational speakers, they say that a closed mouth is a closed destiny. If we should close our mouths, Nigeria as a nation will not move forward. Well, whether or not a voter have the right to remedy political promises in Nigeria, it's really not possible. But in other jurisdictions, I think it is possible. My own investigations, I discovered that in other jurisdictions of the world, voters, as it were, can make some legal remedies, to call back. In our own constitution, we call it recall, but there have not been any scapegoat so far. I think we should try to get somebody as an scapegoat, because what I discovered from the onset is that these politicians, after staying there, they will bring a stooge that they can control, so that he will be the next member of the House of Rep or the Senate. Because I can remember in my own constituency, let me just keep the constituency not mentioned. The man there stayed there for 12 good years. He did not even move a motion. He was only there concurrent for what others said. And he has left now. He now brought in another person called Ezengwari. For those of you that hear Igbo, the boy is called Ezengwari. Give him drink, pepper soup and a woman. Then you can go to London and come back. These are not the type of lawmakers we are looking for in the 21st century. If Nigeria should move forward, and if we are to have a better democracy, if I should quote Plato, Socrates, the teacher of Plato, in one of his words, he said that those that are masquerading themselves as leaders should be men and women of authority, not just gullible men and women who wears big ties and attires in the parliament, unquote. Then he goes straight to the point. When we talk of election promise, my first organ dwelt on legal aspects of promise, but I will look at it politically and socially. A lot of us have witnessed broken promises by these people. And if you look around very vividly, you find out that many of the people that we call honorable members, there's nothing honorable in them. There's totally nothing honorable in them. They are not honorable in learning and even in the certificate they possess with them. Some of them come from broken homes. I'm not trying to be immodesty here, but I'm trying to let us understand the fact that many of them are not men and women of their word. And we should learn not to trust them with the power of leadership. Even in the Bible, our Lord Jesus Christ and his Father, they are more interested in the well-being of their people. That is why, if you look at the whole of the book of Exodus, Genesis, Deuteronomy, Numbers, God in his infinite mercy keep on changing kings from one generation to another. Whenever a king errs, we know what happens to him. And today, we are given the same power. We should not allow ourselves to be led by lions who wear the cloth of an innocent men and women. Election promise is a promise or a guarantee made to the public by a politician or a candidate in trying to win an election election promises are made long before the election. It may be made in the marketplace, in a garden of this nature, and in other subsequent forums. But the unfortunate thing is that in Nigeria today, election promises are not litigated upon because there is no law. But as lawyers, or as we have them as lawyers, we can set the pace ready by trying to at least go before a superior court of law to apply that a promise made by an elected representative of the people is challenged by a court of law, where the court says, as usual, there's no jurisdiction. We, as the people, can go on before the parliament to initiate such law to be passed in the National Assembly, so that we can be able to try, the law can be able to try those people that we call honorable members. I felt so bad when we call them honorable, when they are honorable thieves. I can remember, and as a lawyer who engages in active litigation, and who's also interested to use the law to transform the society, I participated actively in the prosecution of the former governor of Delta State. Out of the 170 charges, the Nigerian court said that none of them was sustained. But the same charges were brought before a court in England, where the judge said, all the 170 charges were against you. I quote his lordship when he was sentencing Ibori, his wife, his girlfriend, and the lawyer that was busy incorporating the company for them in Nigeria. He said, and I quote, you are a criminal with unquantifiable amount of wealth. You are a common thief. That was the governor in Nigeria. So what will make you and I to spare to such an office that is being already messed up by thieves? We paint criminals with all manner of name with a view that we will get something better from them. If I should remove this my cap here on my head. When I was a boy, we just came back from children's church. By way of an example, my mother's younger sister came from another village. She prepared a very nice egusi soup. And my mother took okazi soup. So they now asked me, which of these food do you want to eat? I said, I want to eat both of them. My mother pulled a fork and hit me on my head. I said, if I allow you, you'll be a thief. So you either eat one soup or you don't want to eat. Since that day, if I go on any occasion, till now, that words keep on speaking to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we should be able to look backward and forward, but without sleeping. In 2000, George W. Bush of America, in his election campaign, promised Americans that his party, the Liberal Party, will not abandon lowering the budget and lowering the taxes. When he came to power, his government increased the taxes and also did not lower the budget. The Labour Party sued the government, and the Supreme Court in the US also awarded a huge sum of money, running into $1 billion against the government. The law was silent on this because that was the first time. Also in Canada, in 2003, the Liberal Party was also sued for not living up to its election campaign, which were forward in Nigeria. Also in 1940, Franklin Roosevelt was also sued for taking America to the Second World War. Can we do same in Nigeria? Can we do same in Nigeria? That is a hard question. An election promise has been broken severally in Nigeria because even in the political party's constitution, there's no remedy. Even in our constitution, like the earlier speaker said, there's no remedy. It is you and I that will start the vanguard so that others will follow. Because if you keep quiet over time, this will be the order of the day and it will continue to live with us. These days of internet, people are in their houses sending various messages across, and it is not hard. Let us use this forum to address broken promises in our electoral laws and see how election promises can work for this country as a way forward. Gentlemen and ladies, I will also task this August gathering to think forward on how to use election promises as a tool to further our Nigerian democracy. If it has failed in other countries in Africa, let it not fail in Nigeria. That is my humble submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for keeping to time, Moses. And we're now in the questions and answer session for the three speakers for the first session. And our Twitter handle is @cparliament_NG. @cparliament_NG. That's our Twitter handle. The Skype is Citizens Parliament. Skype is Citizens Parliament. And Facebook is facebook.com/Citizens Parliament. So if you're joining us on the social network sites, you can Twitter, you can push messages to us on Facebook, you can also send messages to us on Skype. We have people that handle such, and for those people that are physically here, we give 3 opportunities, 2 for the women and 1 for a man. So if you're ready for your question for any of the 3 speakers, before we take questions that will be posted on the social network sites as well. Okay, the first question is, okay, we have a man, and that's the only man now. 2 ladies, get ready. We can call on you if you're shy. Can you tell us your name and go ahead with your question, addressing it to a particular speaker?
Thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Garba Wala, or simply known as IG Wala. Man goes to the first speaker that actually educated us enough on the meanings of promises. Okay.
Are you not this question?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've said my name, Ibrahim Garba or IG Wala, but mine is directly to the first speaker. He actually educated us enough on the idea of what promises, the political promises are all about. I was quite impressed, and I love that. But he tried to give examples of failures or promises not fulfilled. He cited an example of a political party, which is APC. I understand that quite clearly. But I was thinking at the moment we standing to the speaker, in our respective institutions where we're coming from, we were taught of making references. And these references actually comes from past experiences of highly placed individuals within the institutions or across other institutions. I was actually marveled to observe that the speaker was actually given references with this present government, which is just today is 100 days or less than 100 days in office. I was thinking we could be dwelling also on broken promises and citing example or making references with the past because ample time was also given for whichever kind of leadership or government that went through their own time should be a very good example of broken promises. Am I right on that, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Oh, very well. Thank you, Mr.
IG Wala.
IG Wala. Yes, I did make reference to the trending, one of the most trending broken political promise. There are several others in the past. What is very trending now is the one that I made reference to. For instance, I was a little boy, I was in secondary school, primary school, entering secondary school in the 80s when the then Chief Sam Mbakwe was governor of Odim State. I remember in 1979 when I was primary 6, he campaigned, I was in the village there in Imo State, that he's going to build a model university in Imo State, Odim State. And of course, the party in power at the center then was NPN, whereas Chief Mbakwe was of the NPP. And of course, there was this starvation of fund from the center. And because he wasn't of the ruling party of the NPN, he was being labeled then because it was said that he went to Lagos, the then seat of power of Nigeria, to cry to the then president that the state is starved of funds. And he was being taunted with the phrase, weeping governor. He wept, and eventually he was able to get the needed allocation to the state. And he built the first state university in Nigeria before that of Abu Saleh of Old Benin State. So it is a classical example of fulfillment of political promise. But the reference to the current one is because it is trending. Everyone here understands that. All of us here were just yesterday that I will do this for you, I will do this for you, I will do this for you, and timelines were given. Those timelines have elapsed. That was the essence of making reference to it. Thank you so much.
Can we have the next question here? We call on First Lady. First Lady, please. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome, ma'am. Come over and tell us the name.
My name is Honorable Caroline Kubuchi, and I am on the post. I have had my fellow Nigerians lamenting about politicians and broken promises. When we talk about broken promises in our political matters, I don't think anybody is a small person in Nigeria today that if someone can come and force you to do what you don't like, you do it. It's left for us. Many of us are possible of it. Because when some people that have no money or what contesting, the people who look who get money to vote in, and they forget that that one who don't get money can be the best contestant or material for the nation. Like samples of everything. I started building in 1998. But many of you today will see me taking leg, going up and down. Can I say, let me say, a person who made PDP and take leg, move up and down, because I don't have money and nobody organizes me. And those who have the power will not consider those who want. So the matter is there now that it left Nigerians to decide what to do, not the contestants. You are contestants, you are contestants. Every one of us are contestants. It depends on what you decide or what the people decide to do among of us that will happen. Like when I contested presidency in 2011, unfortunately I didn't take my form. Being a person who formed, member of the people formed PDP, up to date, nothing. And I contested, nothing was given to me. Nothing was given to me. Even I'm paying debts that I'm owing now to just 2011. No PDP, nobody, no home, the house of rent. See that was governors, nobody helped me. And I don't know even to reach out. And all of them knew me. As I'm passing 10 later, all of them knew me. This is what I would advise you people. Let me give you an idea as I was happening. When I was contesting, when I called the first meeting of 2016, I was about to contest before I get the problem. I told them, say, let me tell you, time have passed when they follow the clap, my person, they have passed. Time have passed, when they promise you, they will not do anything. Let me use myself as an example. If anybody coming to contest and ask you, say, if you will do this, you will do this thing, hold him ransom. By the time he entered there, whatever he promised is not fulfilled. Anywhere he put projects, let the person take it. If you do not do this for us, either your house or anything, no one will stand and destroy it. You make it the way that you know that you will get this content. But by allowing him when he enter there, do anything and come out. You just say, oh, this decision will make it for me and you. If this promise is not forbidden, but this that whenever I come out, remember that one police can't guide you, nothing will guide you. We will take action. Any project you put in, even if it could be anywhere, we'll go there and show you. That's what I want.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for you're welcome in our midst, and would like to. Unfortunately, this is not a political group yet, but we've taken your comments, we've taken your questions, we've taken our reactions, and we direct them accordingly because we're the people's citizens' parliament. And in everyday people group, in every occurrence that happens on a daily basis, you're bound to meet people that matter. We recognize you as the person that matters, the mother in the political group. And as we proceed, do we have a second questionnaire? A lady. Okay, in the absence of that, can we have an adjournment to have a short break? But before we do that, I will invite Marcel to actually give us one or two statements with that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a very exclusive engagement. And this is just the first session. We're coming in for the second session. And what we're saying that this is just the beginning. We planted the seed and we're sure it will grow. Now, just to pass the information, we are appealing to members here. In the short while, we'll be going down for the lunch. I looked at the number here, not everybody was taken care of. So if there's any one of you that can comfortably pick this bill at the pool, but just do. And for those who can't, we'll give them the little we have. We're just trying our best to make this happen. Thank you very much. So we are coming back in the next 1 hour for the second session. So we go to the pool.
Yeah, second session will be a bit political in the
debate
because we're going to have a recap of the whole process of putting everybody together, and secondly, we're going to have an overview, a neutral overview of the 100 days performance of the present government. So it's going to be very interesting, and it's a session that you wouldn't like to miss. It will be anchored by Marcel himself. So let's have a break right now. We'll be back in an hour. Thank you very much.